I think so. I've got a joke thing. I think I'll do it. Yeah, what the heck? Okay. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had some complaints from management. I've been asked, please direct your attention to the screen. Please remember, the following items are not permitted in the theater at any time. Bicycles, super glue, large signs, notions, I don't even know what that means. People named Katie, I'm sorry. If your name is Katie, you'll have to leave the auditorium. I'm very sorry. My apologies. Lawnmowers, push or riding. Microwave ovens. Tall clinging plants. Bracelets which read, I'm with him or her. Belt buckles larger than 1 square foot. And Velcro. And lastly, anything containing the word pink. Thank you for your attention and cooperation. We'll start in just one moment. Thank you. I wasn't sure how that would go over. Thank you. And now, the Carnival Spirit is proud to present the 5-time winner of the Indy 500, the 4th astronaut on the moon, the 3-time winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, 6-time winner of the Tour de France, 3-time European Ballroom Champion, 17, 19, and 23, 4-time winner of the Pillsbury Bake Off, a guy who bought a new pair of shoes just for this trip, and was he ever glad he did? But late last night, he had to trim the insoles, so he went to guest services and borrowed a pair of scissors to cut them. And why do they call them a pair of scissors anyway? Is there such thing as a scissor? Shoot, I'm digressing. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, shark wrestler, auto mechanic, naturalist, unnaturalist, but more on that later. Proclaimer, everybody's best friend or worst enemy. Tailor, roofer, cultivator of strange notions. Telephone repair person, former Secretary of State. Dreamer, finder of lost souls, and of course, don't forget, the current heavyweight champion of the world, for entertainment purposes only, Daniel Gohstand. Thank you very much. Thank you. All these intros are exhausting. That's my MC, Jim. Come on out, Jim. Say hi. Never comes out. He's very shy. Very shy. He's also my makeup artist and hairstylist. I get 3 critical roles out of 1 person. It's great. I don't have to share my cabin with 2 people I barely know, although I've done that before, and that's intriguing in its own right, but can't really get into that right now. So how's everyone doing today? Good, good? How many people from out of town? Everybody, okay. I know, I've used it for a while. Keep pummeling that one into the ground. Thank you all for coming. It's nice to see such a great crowd today. I really appreciate that. Very exciting. Are you all excited about the canal tomorrow? Great. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. I hear it's open tomorrow, so we're in good luck. How many people have been to the canal before? Oh, quite a few. We have a lot of frequent cruisers on here. A lot of, actually, I was up last night at dinner. I know that this level thing, the silver and the gold, I myself am plutonium level. But I had heard there were a couple of people arguing up there about who's got a higher rank, who's got more hours, and I know it's an important thing. And one guy seemed a little despondent. He was like, his hand was in his head. He's like, how am I ever going to get enough hours to ever raise the bar to that level and be this? And he seemed really concerned. How am I ever going to get enough sea time? So I don't know, just as a favor, I pushed him off in one of our lifeboats last night with a can of tuna. So he should be circling around in a couple of months at a whole different, it should be platinum by then, you would think. Hey, thank you for coming, really appreciate it. So I'm Daniel Gohstand. I'm a documentary photographer and drummer from San Francisco, though I live in Guatemala much of the time. Beautiful little town called Santa Maria de Jesus, lovely indigenous Mayan town. Big God bless to my mom, who's with the Lord, my brother, and my grandpa, miss them. Wonderful artists. Love you, Mom. God bless you. Here are my sites, danielphoto.com, image sales. I also invented the world's first system to do imaging on sales for sailboats. This will take you to my links page, which was suggested by a dear new friend of mine, Jeff, on the Luminosa. You can create a links page on Facebook or a web page you might have, put some links in there, create a QR code for free. Then when you meet nice new people on the ship, show them your QR code and they can just scan it or take a picture of it. Much easier than carrying around business cards and things like that. So today is the Panama Canal, and there's so much to share with you. I'm going to get as much as we can. I thought that I would be up on the, almost said brig, which is a real possibility. So I can't really talk about that. But on the bridge, but they're actually bringing on two local folks to take care of that tomorrow. But I will be around, so please, if you have any questions, happy to share with you. I am a photographer, so if there's anything I can do photographically, or if you're experimenting with your phones or cameras, just let me know. Be happy to help you out. Please give me a holler. So let's get started. See what we got going here. Take that one off. Boom. Oh, I'm glad it's still there. I love it when technology works to my advantage. Lovely. Great. Okay, so much to share. It's an amazing journey. So I'm told that we're going to be going through, we'll arrive at about 6 a.m. These times are approximate, but I'm told we'll arrive about 6 a.m. So I would get there, is this on? It is, great. I would get there early. You know, it's obviously a lot of people will be there to check it out. There's some great viewing points. Of course, these decks on the forward part of the ship are great. The front of the ship is great. Even upstairs on some of the upper levels are great. We are in there for quite a long time. It usually takes about 8 hours up to 10. So it depends on the traffic flow and things. So you'll have time, so don't worry. People will be cycling through. It can be kind of crowded at times, but don't worry, take your time. There are also some nice spots on deck 10 on either side that you can see. And do go back and forth from side to side because the views can be a little bit different. And going through the locks, we have 3 different points with locks. So if you miss the first one, sleep in a little bit, I don't blame you. You'll still have another chance later in the afternoon. There'll be a few chances and a lot going on. So let's take a look at how it's laid out. Bless you. Here's my schedule, and there are only a couple left. We've got coral reefs coming up on day 9, then conservation, and a couple more on technology and social media. So, Panama Canal journey, we've arrived. We're finally here. Exciting. Looking forward to this. We made it. So this is, this is a huge aspect about the Panama Canal, of course. Before this, you had to go all the way around South America, down here, very total distance, about 5,000 miles is approximate. It's quite a journey. So that's at 20 miles per hour, which we average for a vessel. We go about 21 knots or so. A knot is 1.15 miles per hour. So we're going about 25 miles per hour, except for some slowdowns that we do during some of the whaling sanctuaries, which is nice for Carnival to do. They found that the engines were interfering with the whales' communication with their echolocation, so they slow down there so the rumble's not so great going through those areas. But otherwise, we're going about 25, 23 miles per hour. So at about 20, that would be 10 and a half days just to get down there. And here, if you were to circumnavigate South America, you're looking at almost a month, 27 days at sea. So this invention cut quite a lot of time off of this commute. And that's why it's so essential to all kinds of things, to shipping and to the military as well, widely used by the U.S. military as well. So here's where we're situated. Of course, we've come down the coast. Going to be heading through the canal right here. You enter at Panama City and exit at Cologne, or vice versa, of course, if you're coming in from the other side. And here's how it cuts right through from Panama City, right through, and up to Cologne. That'll be our journey. And the whole thing's amazing. I've been through quite a few times now, and really, the locks are amazing, but the whole journey is incredible. Just the foliage on the side is so green and beautiful. Hopefully we'll see some wildlife. It's a great experience. So try to be up on deck as much as you can, or if you're not able for any reason, like the dining room has some nice big windows where you can see and just relax there, have a cup of coffee. But it's an amazing experience, so try to make it. So here's how it's lined up. We have 3 different locks. You have the Miraflores lock, so we're going to be entering right here. First, we're going to see Bridge of Americas. You know, I'm almost turned around because I'm so used to coming from this direction. So I'm trying to stay oriented here. But we're going to be entering here. Come in, you'll first see the Bridge of Americas, which is a really beautiful bridge. I'll show you a photo of that in just a second. We're going to hit the Miraflores locks, the Pedro Miguel locks. This is divided 2 and 1, 3 locks total. Then we're going to come up here, Gatun Lake, and then we're going to hit the Gatun locks and Gatun Dam right through here and out. And so there are 3 locks right here which lower us into the Atlantic Ocean on the other side. So Panama Canal construction, which is the most amazing feats in humankind, really that and the pyramids and things really rank up there. So it's the 8th wonder of the world. So this is the precursor to this is little Johnny Wilferson in 1875. Though showing strong determination, only made it as far as his grandma's back fence. Subsequently grounded, and the project was abandoned the following day. After that, there was the first real attempt. Construction began in 1881 by a French team. Same person that did the Suez Canal a little bit earlier in 1869, Ferdinand de Lesseps. Lots of challenges, not an easy thing to go through the jungle. And their concept was to cut out and dredge all the land between the 2 points. It seems like the logical way to do it. If I were building a canal, that's what I would think. But it turns out it wasn't a great thing. The movement of soil was very difficult, tons of landslides, problems with lakes, all kinds of disease, especially malaria, yellow fever, killed about 22,000 people, engineering failures. So about $300 million after that, one of the world's worst financial disasters at the time, almost toppled the French government. They said, well, that's enough of that. 22,000 workers killed. They finally abandoned the project in 1889 and sold the rights to the U.S. in 1902 for $40 million. Not a bad deal. 1904, the United States takes over the project. They negotiated independence for Panama from Colombia and acquired the rights to finish the canal. November 18th, 1903, we've got the Haibanu-Varilla Treaty, establishing permanent U.S. rights to a Panama Canal zone that stretched across the isthmus. U.S. agreed to pay $10 million for a perpetual lease on the land, plus $250,000 annually. President Theodore Roosevelt was in office then. The project became a real big point of national pride and determination. That was after McKinley's assassination. He said, no work which remains to be undertaken on this continent is of such consequence to the American people as the Panama Canal. It was really a central issue. It saved so much time going through. It was critical for the military to establish a passageway there and to unite the 2 coasts and the 2 navies, because we had, now it seems obvious, but back then we essentially had 2 navies, one in the Pacific, one in the Atlantic. And for some of the campaigns that were to follow in the upcoming war, sadly, this was a critical thing, that we could unite those navies and have passage there much more quickly. So 56,000 people working on the canal between 1904 and 1913. 5,600, about 10%, passed away. Lots of problems, again, landslides, all kinds of problems with malaria, which we'll talk about in just a sec. U.S. workers made about 38 cents an hour, and tens of thousands of people also came from nearby islands to aid in the project. A lot is owed to these people who worked so very hard for so very little, 90 cents a day. A lot of machinery was created just for this. One of them being the steam shovel, earth spreaders. There are many devices that exist strictly because of this project. There were no mechanisms. They say, you know, necessity is the mother of invention. That was really the case with the Panama Canal, because many large machinery was created specifically for tasks involved in the carrying out of the Panama Canal, including 70 steam shovels and 61 million pounds of dynamite by the time they were done. It was the only way in which they could break up the rock sufficiently that the steam shovels could come by and scoop it up. Very hard rock, very hard to get through. Transfer of control. In '77, U.S. and Panama signs the Torrijos-Carter treaties, which agreed to transfer the control back to Panama. So we have a lot of different challenges, and it's really interesting how they did. I'll show you some graphics in just a second that I saw a video on this that really explained it well, because it's hard to picture still. No matter how much you read about it, it's one of those visual things. I think this will really bring it home. Creation of Gatun Lake by damming the Chagres River, the largest human-made lake at the time. So this is what supplies the water in that area. You'll see how they flooded it and used that runoff to supply water to the locks. Designing a lock system instead of a sea level canal to solve the issue of Panama's mountainous terrain. So rather than dredging it and making a cut through the entire thing, they actually just leveled off some of the mountains and created a huge human-made lake to flood it. And that's why we need to raise the level of the vessels 81 feet to meet that new level. It's not at sea level, we're 81 feet above sea level, but that was much easier than you can imagine how much earth you'd have to move to cut a swath all the way through the jungle from one ocean to the other. It just wasn't feasible. And that's why the French efforts failed. But they thought, well, why not? And it's really a brilliant piece of engineering. Why not raise the water level, then raise the ships using this series of locks to do so, transport them across, and then lower them again to the other ocean? That meant a lot less earth needing to be moved and a lot less labor involved comparatively. Let's see, so health breakthroughs. Dr. William Gorgas, so he was credited with eliminating malaria and typhoon in Cuba not too long before. Led efforts, and this is a critical thing, you know, with all that was going on. It's amazing that disease, well, oftentimes is really the greatest problem and the greatest thing to overcome. Led efforts to eliminate yellow fever and control malaria, which is really a problem. Thousands of people died just from malaria, by cleaning drainage ditches. You know, at the time, they were just beginning to understand that it was the mosquitoes that were carrying these diseases. Before then, a lot of people really weren't clear on that. This is a critical point in time in the medical field as well. Draining ditches, clearing swamp grass so that birds could eat some of the larvae, adding crude oil with kerosene to stagnant water to kill larvae, and applying mosquito netting to windows, things that we know today were just in their inception at the time. Estimated to have saved 71,000 lives and 40 million work days. By Christmas 1905, yellow fever had been eliminated for all intents and purposes in Panama. That's a major accomplishment and a major turning point in the efforts to cut this swath through the jungle. There is William C. Gorgas. Looking good there? Love these black and white photos. Completion, 1914. First ship, SS Ancon, made the official transit on August 15, 1914. Total cost about $375 million, which is a huge, huge sum at the time, one of the most expensive projects ever undertaken, but well worth it in the end. Here's some construction photos I found that are really, really interesting. So you can see the undertaking here. And very, very dangerous work. So many people sadly lost limbs during the course of this. That was a big business at the time, I'm sad to say, was people who sold artificial limbs. Because sadly, so many people lived you got blasting with dynamite, you have rock slides, you have new machinery that's just been invented for this purpose, that therefore no one had ever utilized before. And, you know, it was a very harsh environment, very difficult thing to undertake. You'll see even ads where companies were advertising limbs and advertising them as being best suited for use if you're going to return to work on the canal, they're best suited for that purpose. So kind of a very difficult work environment. So they have trains also clearing some of these larger stones, working with other large machinery here. Most of them are steam powered at that time. A lot of it's still done by hand. And amazing amounts of dynamite being used. At one point, over 200 people were killed in a single blast because of the climate in Panama too. The dynamite became extremely unstable, and the transportation of it just by hand in carts and things, you can imagine, that's a very tricky thing to be doing. Here are the locks as they're being built. Now, another thing, what fascinated me as I was investigating this more, so many technologies were invented because of this. There was a new type of concrete, quick-drying concrete, that was invented again specifically for this purpose. And these are massive structures, 60 feet tall. They're strongest at the bottom because that's where the water pressure is the greatest, and then get increasingly thinner as they go towards the top. These are to transport the water in the bottom for the flooding, which we'll show you, for the raising of the ships. These systems were used to bring dirt in and out as well, and to drop them, and also concrete, and to drop it in the appropriate place in the construction. And they use a fast-drying concrete that they invented to speed up the process as well. So a lot of new innovation for the time. As a photographer, these photographs are just fascinating to me. I'm a street shooter myself, so my life is really composed of just trying to communicate depths of human emotion without intrusion, and trying to communicate people's spirits with respect. And some of these images are really striking. Each one, the character in each face really tells a story. There we go again, some new steam machinery, and again, alongside a lot of hand labor. They're the first locks being put in. These things are amazing too. Another feat of engineering. It was Leonardo da Vinci actually that first conceived of this type of lock centuries ago. And amazingly, I'll show you some other stats, but these things, as heavy as they are, they're open and closed by a 40 horsepower motor. That's like a little moped, like a tiny moped motor, is all that's needed to open and close these because they're so well balanced. Here's a cross section. You can see how it is here with the different locks on the side and the tubing to funnel in the water in and out. Now, the tall is a 6-story building. So 6 stories tall. Water comes through here. And I'll show you in a second how the water moves from one lock to another from the lake. Oh, good. I'm ahead of myself. The lock system. So the canal has 3 sets of locks. Gatun, which is on the Atlantic side, has 3 locks in itself. We've got the Pedro Miguel, which is a single lock, and going to Miraflores on the Pacific side, which has 2 locks. Each one has 2 locks. So we've got ships going one way and ships coming the other. The locks raise and lower the ships by 85 feet to reverse the Panama's mountainous terrain. So the ships enter the lock chambers. Water levels are raised and lowered by gravity. There's no real power involved, and ships are guided by tugboats and electric locomotives called mules. And these are fascinating. You've got to get a look at these. If you look as we go through the locks, look on the sides, and you'll see these they just look like little trains on the sides on rails, much like trains with very, very strong cabling. And they use these to attach to the ship and then pull the ship along to guide it so that it's not colliding with the walls of the canal, saving the ship and the canal itself. But it's an amazing process. You'll see these, usually 2 in front on 2 in back. Each lock requires 26 million gallons. Amazing. To fill it from the lower to the raised position. That's the same amount of water must be drained to lower it again. Processes the water of 2 Niagara Falls per day. Lock chambers are 110 feet wide by 1,050 feet long with the usable length of 1,000 feet. So this is really important. These dimensions determine the maximum size of the ships that can use the canal, and that size is known as Panamax. And I'll show you some different designations in shipping. So that's critical. You know, ships, even naval ships at the time, were constructed also so that they could fit through the canal and vice versa. Very important they work in conjunction. Wouldn't that be a drag if you built a $80 million ship only to find it was half a foot too wide? Gatun Lake serves as a water reservoir and the Central Passage. There are 12 locks, again, 6 pairs in total. Two-step flight at Miraflores, like we said, 54 feet, and a single one at Pedro Miguel, 31 feet, making up the 85 feet total. Those lift the ship from the Pacific to Gatun Lake. Then a triple flight at Gatun, that's on the Atlantic side, our final lock of the cruise, lowers us in again into the Atlantic side. As we were saying, there are 2 parallel locks at each spot coming in and out. The gates separating chambers in each flight of locks must hold back a massive amount of water, so a lot of water pressure involved, of course. You wouldn't want a flood to be released. And you'll see in some points, too, they have 2 sets of locks, and that's why. Because if there were some tragedy, they were always afraid, and they had different systems as well to protect against this, of cabling and different safety mechanisms, which they've gradually done away with. You'll see at different points there are 2 sets of locks, and that's just in case there's some malfunction, or if a ship happens to ram one of the locks and destroys it, there's something to prevent tremendous flooding on the other side. So they have two separate sets in some spots. They range from 47 to 82 feet high, depending on the position, and are 7 feet thick. They weigh 1.5 million pounds. Think about it, 1.5 million pounds, yet only require a 40 horsepower motor because of the balance. As I mentioned, requires 8, sometimes up to 10, even 12 hours for the ships to complete what's a 50-mile journey, 82 kilometers, going from the Atlantic and the Pacific. Saves ships about 8,000 miles compared with going around South America. So that's a lot of time. As I was saying, it's almost a month's journey that the canal is cutting off. So here's a panoramic shot. I have a very old cell phone, so if you have more modern ones, definitely utilize them. Panoramic shots are great. I didn't used to use them so much, and I use my pro cameras for shooting for the most part, but I gotta say, this is a great look. If you're up on deck in the front there, try doing some panoramas. Sometimes I'll do some panoramas with myself in the corner and then rotate that around. So you've got yourself maybe in one corner of the frame and the canal in a panorama behind you. That's a once in a lifetime shot. You can see the lock gates here as we go through. I don't see the mules in this shot, but you'll see them as we go through. So this is a great vantage point, anything up front there. So these are really great diagrams. I have them in the credits at the end, and they deserve kudos because this is a really great explanation of it. So they cut some of the terrain off, some of the mountains, but not nearly as much as you would have had you dredged the entire thing to make it from one coast to the other. So some were cut down, and this was intentionally flooded and a man-made lake, human-made lake created. So when our vessel, when ours or anybody's comes through here, we're going to show it in 3 locks. So this would be on the Atlantic side, for instance. So you're coming through, we have the first lock. Water is released from the second lock, comes into the first lock, which raises this level to be equal with the second lock. And the ship is raised correspondingly with that water. I mean, of course, as you put more water into it, if you're in your bathtub with your rubber ducky, put more water in there, your ducky's going to float higher and higher. I haven't had a bath in a long time. That'd be nice as opposed to a shower. Get into my bathtub. Got to get my rubber ducky out. But see, so that raises the ship here, making these levels equal. Once they're equal, and only once they're equal, they can open the lock gates again. Ship passes through to the second lock, and much similar process. Second lock is raised, and again the third lock, and finally we're at the level of the lake again, 85 feet later. Brilliant, 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 brilliant system. Incredible. So now you don't need to dredge all the soil down below, which the French found were impossible. You just need to lop some tops off of some mountains and things and create this human-made lake, raise the height of the vessel, pour it through, and then bring it down again on the other side. Pretty amazing feat of engineering. Now, one thing to remember, though, in the end, we've lost this amount of water, which is a lot of water. So this became a problem, and needs to be drained into the ocean. It does not go back into the lake. So with time, it looks like a small quantity, but it's a massive quantity of water. And with time, that became a problem because it's taking water away from the lake, and if there's a drought, as there was several years ago, it becomes a real problem. And shipping companies had to lessen their cargo at the time, and some of the large ships were not able to go through just because of the depth of the water. I have a little sailboat, so I know this full well on a very small scale. By the way, the draft of my boat, the depth is only 4 feet, and most sailboats are 4 to 7 feet. I was amazed to find here it's only 20 feet on this ship. I thought it'd be much deeper, but we're actually, the portion that's under the water line, the very kind folks up on the bridge who've had me up there, I really appreciate their generosity, hospitality up there. It's only 20 feet that's below the water line. And the reason is that it instead uses a system of water containers, both lower on the bottom parts of the ship and above. And via computer, they're able to transfer these quantities of water around the ship to achieve balance on the ship and as ballast. But so that was a big problem. When drought hits, it's a real issue. Gratefully, there were rains shortly after that, which refilled the lake. But if there's ever a continuous drought for years, this could really be an issue. Here it is coming again on the other side. Similarly, it's lowered, lock to lock, until these levels are equal, and again, let out. This would be on the Atlantic side, letting us out again, lowering us 85 feet again. Here's Gatun Lake and Chagres River, which feeds it. And this was the last portion. So this was this little unflooded region right here. I think you can see it right here. The Culebra, right, coming through here. This was the last portion that was covered by rock and the last to be blasted. So actually the president at the time had a button back in the States which he pushed, and cabling was laid there, and with dynamite explosions, they cleared this last portion, and for the first time, the two oceans met. It was a big, big achievement and a big day in history, and the whole world celebrated, not only in the States and in Panama, but throughout the world. This is a monumental task, and finally finished when they blasted this very last section, allowing water to be released into the Atlantic. Now, this is much like what we're going to see when the ship comes in. So you'll have a couple of tugboats pushing her and aligning her with the locks. You're not allowed to guide the ship as a captain through the canal. They usually have a pilot or two on board overseeing things, but it's mainly guided here. So you have tugboats making sure she's correctly aligned with the canal and the locks. And then you've got here the mules, these little railroad cars with cables, there you go, guiding the ship through. So you've got tugboats and these right here, these mules, which attach to the side of the ship, and they can tension those cables. So they're adjusting their tension as they go. And you'll see them. They're really interesting. It looks like a Disneyland ride or something. These things go up and down these little railroad tracks on the side of the vessel. So keep your eye out for those. They're really interesting, a lot of fun to watch. And that's kind of what we're going to see with the mules and the tugboats working in conjunction. Again, of course, you don't want to collide with the side of the canal for the canal's sake and also for our lovely ship's sake. And here are a couple of the mechanisms that were invented. So this sideways wedge came over railroad cars. So all this, with the steam shovels and things, this rock would be loaded onto railroad cars like that, kind of flatbed cars. But then what do you do with all these mounds and mounds of soil and rock? Well, they invented many things, including this, some of them very simple, but again, really revolutionary at the time, this wedge system. And as the car comes by, it's just pushing the rock off into the side very fast. Speed was an issue, of course. Now, of course, what do you do with all this rock that's on the side? Well, then they invented this. It's an earth mover, which has these plates here, and it just goes by and pushes the soil out further. And then they had a system of flexible track. You know, it used to be they'd have to take all the spurs out and lift the track and move the track and relocate the track. Very lengthy, very demanding process. To save time, they had a flexible track that they could just divert, over the flat portions, what were now the flat portions of soil after this came through and flattened the soil on every side. So incredibly innovative. And again, you know, necessity, the mother of invention. These things didn't exist until the Panama Canal. They found out that they're going to need some new ways of approaching things to achieve this. Now, modern expansion. So in 2016, there's an expansion project. So ships have gotten larger and larger, carrying more and more cargo. Cruise ships, as we know, have gotten larger and larger. So third set of locks completed in 2016. This is the new Panamax or Neo-Panamax vessels. So this is interesting to me. A TEU, it's a 20-foot equivalent unit. It's a little technical, it was very interesting to me as I was discovering this. It's an exact unit of measurement used to determine cargo capacity for container ships and terminals. So the number of containers a ship can load is translated into the number of 20-foot containers, and that measurement is known as a TEU. For example, one 40-foot container is, of course, 2 TEUs. So Panamax ships can carry up to 5,000 TEUs. New Panamax, introduced after the canal's expansion. So that's interesting. They create a whole new type of vessel because now the canal's wide enough to accommodate it, can carry up to 14,000 TEUs. Post-Panamax ships, even wider and must bypass the canal. They're simply too wide to go through there. They and other large container vessels, ULCV, carry the largest cargo amounts, some well in excess of 20,000 TEUs. But I thought that was fascinating as well, that you know, the width of ships and vice versa, it's kind of a symbiotic relationship, is determined by the width of the canal, and the width of the canal earlier determined by the width of vessels. And here's a great shot. That's the new construction there, wider and wider locks being used for larger and larger vessels. So in strategic importance and global impact, it's quite a lot. So military importance. 1919, the Pacific Fleet passed through the canal just after Theodore Roosevelt's death. It's been a key strategic asset for the Navy and global maritime operations ever since. Again, as I was mentioning, the U.S. needed a two-ocean Navy. We really need to unite those forces and have access to both oceans during the World Wars. So that West Coast battleships would be available for a Caribbean campaign. So the Panama Canal allowed movement of naval assets between coasts. Many naval assets were built with the Panama Canal original dimension limits, Panamax, in mind. And during World War II, the canal was heavily fortified to ensure control of both oceans. Economic impact handles approximately 14,000 ships per year and about 5% of world trade. Amazing percentage of world trade overall. Major commodities transported include oil, grain, and manufactured goods. Transit tolls. So this is amazing too. Over 1 million ships have used the canal at this point. Highest toll ever paid was over $1 million for a massive cruise ship. And the toll for cruise ships is based on the size and cargo, with the average toll being around $150,000. I know approximately what it is for this. It's more. I probably shouldn't divulge it. Oh, no. I'm sworn to secrecy, or they make me walk the plank. I'm sorry, sir. But it's quite a sum, and well, it does. I appreciate, on some level, I do have to divulge this actually, because this is a little uncomfortable for me to bring up. I probably should have mentioned it. Actually, the management told me to not mention it, but look, man, it's been a rough month. It's been a rough month. Things have been a little slow, to be honest. People eating a little bit more at the buffet than we had anticipated and stuff, and it's just it's cutting into things a little bit. And so I hate to bring this up. Forgive me, and please don't tell my manager that I even mentioned it, because I probably get in a lot of trouble with it. Again, I'm sorry. I'm really uncomfortable. Forgive me for even bringing it up. It's really disconcerting to even. But I've got to admit, please, if there's anything you can do, I mean, we're looking at some pretty hefty bills to tote us all through here, and I know you appreciate that. And I'm going to leave this hat here on the stage later. Anything's appreciated, coins accepted, and please, like we said, the canal's nice, but do you really want to be stuck in there all night? I don't think so. I'm going to leave this hat up here, and please, anything you can do, I just personally really appreciate it. I'm reaching out to you personally about this. It's not a company thing, it's personal reach out. I really appreciate your support. Okay, now a little bit on the bridges. So we got 3 bridges. First, we're going to see the Bridge of the Americas, which is really beautiful. It passes really, it seems quite low. So we pass quite close to it. Be ready for that because we go under quite quickly. It passes quite quickly overhead. It's a great video. Have your cell phones ready to shoot videos and photos and stuff. It's one of the best points of it. It's going to be pretty early on. I can't really approximate a time. I would be widely guessing this won't be too accurate, somewhere around 7:30-ish, but that's a very basic guess. If you really want to catch everything, get there at 5 a.m. It's early, but get a jump on things. We will be entering about 6. But this bridge is really nice, really interesting. And shoot that as you go above. It's really cool. It's a great little video. Then the Centennial Bridge will be the next one that we see. Also really beautiful. I love these cable suspension bridges, really interesting. The new span of the Bay Bridge in San Francisco is kind of like, I was one of the first probably 500 people over the Bay Bridge. I'm excited about that. I got up and drove across there, the new expansion at about 5 a.m. or so, 4:30 a.m. It was exciting. I was shooting a video out the window and saw Highway Patrol come behind me, but he didn't say anything. Then on the Atlantic side, the Atlantic Bridge here, really beautiful. I mean, look at the geometry, really lovely. And then there's another one, not yet constructed, in the planning stage still, has been for quite a long time, a lot of rumblings about the finances and political aspects of it. But eventually there will be a 4th bridge to transport people. Okay, folks, and here's some of the things. Big thanks to Sabins Engineering, because that's a great little thing. Hey, thanks to me, too. I appreciate that. So that's it for today. Here's the rest of the thing. Here's my thing. I really want to thank you for coming. Thank you very much. Please, if you've enjoyed the lectures, please let the